Hello to all of our Facebook folks and all of the WCNC.com and YouTube channel, and also our folks on Periscope as well. Fred Shropshire here with WCNC Charlotte and Alex Shabbat, one of our defenders. Good to see you, Alex.
Hey, good seeing you, Fred. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing very well. You know, this has been, we had a little bit of a conversation that we were starting before we came on about what a wild week it's been. We've got politics going on. We've still got coronavirus is a big headline. Somewhere lost in there that you continue to do work on is unemployment. People are still needing help with unemployment, and you and our defenders team continue to do stories about benefits. And one of the headlines that you're focusing on tonight after the game, you're talking about people with medical challenges who are still, they still need help, but for some reason or another, there's a medical issue.
Exactly, Fred. And, the pandemic hit, as we've been talking about. There's politics, there's all the things that are going on, but people's real world problems are continuing. It's not like there was a pause to all that when the pandemic hit. So today we're talking to people who've had some health concerns, either themselves or their family, and they feel like they're forced into not only an uncomfortable situation, but potentially a dangerous situation as they've been waiting for unemployment benefits. One man we talked to, his name is Chuck Whitener. He was getting benefits after he lost his job as a tour bus rider back in around March. And things were going relatively smoothly over the next several months. He went from one program to another, but then in September, his benefits just suddenly stopped and he just couldn't get an answer. Well, obviously the bills start piling up. And when we talk about the medical issue, his wife, shortly after, around the time they lost their jobs, was the cancer. And so he's just extremely scared that should he go back to the workforce while he waits, and he may have to do that, he feels, while he's been waiting for the unemployment benefits, that he would somehow get COVID, and his worst fear is give that to his wife. He said he's more concerned about his wife than he is for himself. And he got so concerned about it, actually, that he wrote a letter, he told me, to the governor's office just because of everything he's going through. So that's kind of what we're highlighting in this story, is this situation while people are waiting for benefits they believe are owed to them, and their debt is piling up, and they're forced into a very difficult decision. We need money, our bills are adding up. Do I go back to the workforce? And he actually referred to it as a potentially fatal decision. And he referred to the government. So this is something people out there are obviously all around. And here we're talking to people who are waiting for their benefits, feel like they're forced back in. The other one we talked to in this story is someone who actually had been waiting almost all year. I think it was 7-8 months after he tried to get benefits, and he was not able to when he initially contacted us. He had quit his job because of concerns. He had aortic stenosis and needed open heart surgery, and in a local car dealership, and just comfortable with the amount of people he was coming into contact. So we have like two people. They have different stories. One of them lost their job, the other quit their job, but what they have in common is these health concerns, and feel like, what do? We can't really go back to work, or we don't feel comfortable going back to work, but we need the money.
Yeah, and I know there's some unique circumstances where people actually do qualify if they can't go back for medical reasons. There's something with a doctor's note that you were talking about.
Exactly right. In most cases, you look up the criteria, and generally speaking, the state and federal government will say, from an assistance program, for example, you generally can't quit your job and then be accepted for benefits. Typically, it's you lose your job some other way, but there are exceptions, and one of those potential exceptions is if a doctor determines that you have such a serious health issue that you should be quarantining at home, and you should be either working through video or some other way, but that you shouldn't be leaving the house because it could be a serious risk to your health. And that's what the other gentleman, his name's Lynn, he actually had that. He had a doctor's note basically saying this man needs to stay home. It's for his health. He was about to go through open heart surgery at the time. And even with that doctor's note, he struggled for months to get an answer about why he wasn't getting benefits. And so he contacted us. The other person didn't have a doctor's note. It was not about his own personal health. It was about his wife's. And so that was his own personal struggle of, do I go back? It's not my health that I mean, of course, he was concerned about his health, but his bigger concern was about his wife's health. And, there's a lot of technical issues. There's a lot of different criteria, and there's a lot of programs. So, I mean, I always like to take the opportunity to just let people know to go to our website to get their questions answered at WCNC.com/money. You can find a lot of the answers to these questions, as we're talking about right now. Of course, we're talking about different criteria and whether you can quit your job, or whether it's whether you lose your job some other way, and there's different programs, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. So we have a lot of information on our website that I'd encourage people to go to, and you can get some of your questions answered that way as well.
Yeah, a lot of comments on here ranging from Shadow of Charlotte saying North Carolina is extremely stingy with unemployment money, just saying. And W.A. Houston also saying the unemployment department is full of BS. Wow. Yeah, so clearly people are very frustrated over this. And you mentioned something a couple of moments ago that I think you covered quite extensively here, but just for people who are joining us for the first time, I think it might be worth noting. What are some of the technical difficulties that you have run into from other folks who have reached out to you?
Other technical difficulties, as far as some of their challenges that they've gone through, is just hearing different answers from people who they reach out to at the state level. They'll call one person and say, your claim is fine. And they'll call another person who says, there's this issue with your claim. Or sometimes they're consistently told their claim is fine, and somehow escalated to a supervisor or someone else. And there's just wide variety, almost like, you hear the same claims over and over, but then you also hear a lot of claims. And it just comes down to sometimes either a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. According to these people, sometimes the agents don't really have a full grasp of their claims. So I try to just listen carefully, hear their story out, listen to all the details, kind of lay out a timeline. And then when we reach out on their behalf to the state, I hope to lay out this timeline so it clearly shows what the situation is with the state. If they're dealing with an overwhelming number of people or whatever the case may be, the clearer I can be about what these people are going through, I hope it expedites the process for the state to be able to look into a potential resolution if that's deserved and necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your story and looking forward to hearing about these two men and their families, but because behind every story and every challenge that you uncover and that you help out with is a family that is usually grateful when you're able to step up. So we're going to hear more about your story, those two families, coming up after the game tonight on WCNC Charlotte. Another Where's the Money report from our defender, Alex Shabbat. Alex, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And thanks to all the folks out here joining us again. Join us tonight after the football game, WCNC Charlotte.
Thanks a lot, Fred. Great